Alien warrior left for dead after losing her legs. Only a human Marine refused to leave her. The acrid stench of plasma burns and scorched earth filled Marine Sergeant Edward Kane's nostrils as he picked his way through the battlefield's aftermath. Bodies of both human and Cyrene warriors littered the ground, testament to the ferocity of the morning's engagement. His combat boots crunched over crystallized sand, transformed to glass by energy weapon discharge. "Fucking mess," he muttered, checking his rifle's charge. The indicator showed 43%. Not great, but enough to get him back to friendly lines. If he could find them. The rest of his squad was gone, their biosignatures winking out one by one during the chaotic retreat. Now he moved alone through the alien world's rust-colored dunes, guided only by his suit's compromised nav system and pure stubborn instinct. A weak groan caught his attention. Edward spun, weapon raised, scanning for the source. There, behind a twisted piece of wreckage that might once have been a hover tank, he approached cautiously. Years of combat experience keeping him alert for traps. What he found stopped him cold. A female Cyrene warrior lay sprawled in the sand, her pale green skin made even more ethereal by blood loss. Her combat suit, a form-fitting black affair that left little to the imagination, was torn and charred. But what drew his attention was the devastating injury below her knees. Both legs ended in cauterized stumps, likely from a plasma mine. "Well, shit," he breathed. Her gray-white hair was matted with blood and grime, but her face remained striking even in agony. As he watched, her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises the color of Arctic ice. She saw him and immediately tried to reach for a weapon that wasn't there. The movement sent fresh pain across her features. "Easy," Edward said, keeping his rifle lowered but ready. "I'm not here to hurt you." She spat something in her native tongue that his translator rendered as particularly creative profanity. Despite himself, he grinned. "Quite a mouth on you for someone in your position." "Kill me or leave, human," she growled in accented standard. "I need no pity from your kind." Edward studied her for a long moment. By all rights, he should put her out of her misery or just walk away. She was the enemy. Her people had started this war. Protocol was clear about engaging with captured Cyrene. They were too dangerous to risk close contact, but something made him hesitate. Maybe it was the fierce pride still burning in those ice-blue eyes, or maybe he was just tired of leaving bodies behind. "What's your name?" he asked instead. She stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "What? Your name?" "I'm Edward Kane. Seems only polite if I'm about to save your life." "You're insane," she said flatly. "I am Naira Valthor, warrior of the 3rd Blade Cohort, and you cannot save me. My people have already retreated. They know I am lost." Edward shrugged off his pack and began pulling out medical supplies. "Good thing I'm not your people then." "The blood loss has clearly affected your mind," Nerra said. But he noticed she made no move to stop him as he prepared a trauma kit. "Why would you help me?" "Because I can," he replied simply. "And because I'm starting to think this war is stupid enough without adding one more corpse to the pile." As he worked to stabilize her injuries, Edward couldn't shake the feeling that this moment, this choice, would change everything. He just didn't know how yet. Edward carried Nerra through the crimson dusk, her slight form cradled against his chest. His combat suit's servos whined softly, compensating for the extra weight. The Cyrene warrior had finally passed out from exhaustion and blood loss, though the emergency medical nanites she'd administered were keeping her stable. "Just hold on," he muttered, more to himself than his unconscious charge. His suit's sensors had detected a structure ahead, some kind of ancient ruins partially buried in the sand. Perfect for laying low until he could figure out their next move. The ruins turned out to be the remains of a pre-war research station, its angular architecture half swallowed by centuries of windblown sand. Edward picked his way carefully through a partially collapsed entrance, scanning for threats. Finding none, he gently laid Naira down on a relatively clean section of floor. The interior was surprisingly intact, with emergency lighting still functioning on minimal power. Ancient research equipment lined the walls, covered in a thick layer of dust. Whatever the scientists had been studying here, they'd left in a hurry when the war broke out. Edward set up a temporary camp, laying out thermal blankets and setting up portable heaters to ward off the desert world's bitter night chill. He was just finishing when Nerra stirred, her ice-blue eyes fluttering open. "Where?" she started, trying to push herself up. "Easy there, warrior princess," Edward said, moving to steady her. "We're safe for now. Found an old research station. She glared at him, but allowed him to help her sit up. I told you to leave me. Yeah, well, I've never been great at following orders, especially his stupid ones. He handed her a canteen. Drink, you lost a lot of blood. Naira accepted the water with surprising grace, taking careful sips. You are either the bravest or most foolish human I've ever encountered. I get that a lot, Edward grinned. How are you feeling? Like I stepped on a plasma mine. Her attempt at dry humor surprised a laugh out of him. The pain is manageable now. Your medicine? Nanites, he confirmed. They're stabilizing you and preventing infection. Military grade. She nodded, then looked down at her truncated legs with a grimace. I am crippled. Useless as a warrior now. Bullshit, Edward said firmly. Ever heard of prosthetics? The right cybernetics and you'll be back in fighting form. Might even be faster than before. My people do not. She paused, considering. We believe in natural perfection. Augmentation is seen as weakness. No offense, but that's stupid as hell, Edward said, checking the perimeter sensors he'd set up. Nothing wrong with using technology to overcome limitations. Shows adaptability. Naira watched him move around the room with an unreadable expression. You are not what I expected, Edward Kane. How so? Our intelligence suggests humans are savage, bloodthirsty creatures who care only for conquest. Yet you show mercy, kindness even. She tilted her head. It is confusing. Edward sat down across from her, close enough to talk comfortably, but maintaining a respectful distance. Maybe your intelligence needs updating. We're not all bad. Just like I'm betting not all Cyrene are the emotionless killing machines our propaganda makes you out to be. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Perhaps. She shifted, wincing slightly. Though I must admit, some of our beliefs about human male attractiveness appear accurate. Edward nearly choked on his water. I'm sorry, what? Naira's smile grew more pronounced. Oh, did your intelligence not mention that? Many Cyrene find human males quite appealing. Something about your rugged features and muscular builds. Her eyes traveled over him appreciatively. Though you are an especially fine specimen, Edward felt his face heating up. That's good to know? She laughed then, a surprisingly musical sound. You face death without flinching, yet simple flirtation makes you blush. Fascinating. In my defense, most enemy combatants don't usually compliment my physique, he managed, trying to regain his composure. Their loss, Nerra said, with a predatory grin that sent shivers down his spine, and not entirely unpleasant ones. The moment was broken by a distant rumble that shook dust from the ceiling. Both warriors tensed, years of combat training taking over. Artillery? Naira asked, already reaching for a weapon she didn't have. Edward checked his tactical display. No, seismic activity. This whole region is geologically unstable. Another reason it was abandoned. Wonderful, she muttered. So we're hiding in ruins that could collapse on us at any moment? Look on the bright side. At least we'll have company if we get buried alive, he quipped. Your attempt at humor needs work, she said dryly, but he caught the hint of amusement in her voice. As if to punctuate her words, another tremor shook the station, this one stronger, causing loose debris to rain down around them. We should move deeper inside, Edward said, already gathering their supplies. These outer chambers are too exposed. Nerra nodded in agreement, then looked down at her legs with frustration. Without a word, Edward moved to her side and scooped her up again. This time she wrapped her arms around his neck without protest. My hero, she purred in his ear, sending another of those pleasant shivers through him. Behave yourself, warrior princess, he growled back, earning another musical laugh. As he carried her deeper into the ruins, Edward couldn't help but marvel at how quickly their dynamic had shifted. Here they were, sworn enemies by circumstance, trading flirtatious banter while trying to survive. It was insane. It was probably treason. It was also the most alive he'd felt in years. The third tremor hit without warning, stronger than the previous two combined. Edward barely had time to shield Naira with his body as the ceiling came down around them. His combat suit's shields flared, deflecting the worst of the debris. But the thunderous cascade of falling rock seemed endless. When the dust finally settled, they found themselves trapped in a small chamber, the entrance completely sealed by fallen debris. Emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie blue glow. Well, Edward coughed, checking his suit's diagnostics. This is cozy. Nerra shifted in his arms, her breath warm against his neck. Your talent for understatement is remarkable. She paused, then added with a sultry tone, though I can think of worse situations than being trapped in close quarters with a handsome human warrior. Edward felt his pulse quicken at her words. The small space left them pressed together, her lithe form fitting perfectly against him. You're injured, he reminded her, and himself. And we need to focus on getting out of here. My injuries are stable thanks to your nanites, she countered, trailing a finger along his jawline. And my people have different views on how to handle stressful situations. Is that right? He managed, trying to maintain his composure as she nuzzled against his neck. We believe life should be embraced fully, especially in moments of danger. Her ice blue eyes met his, filled with heat. You've shown me such kindness, Edward Kane. Let me show you how my people express gratitude. Naira, he breathed, fighting a losing battle against his growing desire. This isn't what? Proper? She laughed softly. We're enemies trapped together in ruins on a forgotten world. I think we're well past proper, don't you? Before he could respond, his suit's sensors blared a warning. Oxygen levels dropping, he announced, reluctantly pulling back. The cave-in must have damaged the station's atmospheric systems. Naira's expression turned serious. How long? 2 hours of breathable air, maybe less. He scanned the chamber. There has to be another way out. These research stations usually had multiple escape routes. Then we should find it quickly, she said, all business now despite their intimate position. Unless you want our first kiss to be our last. Edward couldn't help but grin. Already planning to kiss me, are you? Oh, I'm planning far more than that, my brave human, she purred. But first survival. He set her down carefully and began examining the walls with his suit's sensors. There, behind that panel, I'm reading a maintenance shaft. Working together, they managed to pry the panel loose, revealing a narrow tunnel. Edward's suit lights illuminated smooth metal walls, disappearing into darkness. It's going to be a tight fit, he warned. I don't mind tight, Naira replied with a wicked smile, though you'll have to carry me again, unless you'd prefer to drag me by my hair. Don't tempt me, warrior princess. He scooped her up, trying to ignore how perfectly she molded against him. Ready? Always, she whispered in his ear, sending shivers down his spine. The maintenance shaft was indeed cramped, forcing Edward to crawl on his elbows with Naira clinging to his back. Her occasional, helpful adjustments of position were definitely not making it easier to concentrate. You're doing this on purpose, he growled after a particularly distracting shift. Of course, she admitted shamelessly. Consider it motivation to move faster. The sooner we find safety, the sooner we can explore other activities. You're going to be the death of me. Oh no, Edward Kane, she said softly. I have much more interesting plans for you than death. The shaft seemed endless, twisting through the station's infrastructure. Edward's suit's sensors showed they were moving gradually upward, which he hoped meant they were heading toward the surface. The air was getting thinner, making each breath more precious. Tell me, Naira said after a while, her voice thoughtful, why did you really save me? The truth this time. Edward was quiet for a moment, considering. Honestly, I'm tired of this war. Tired of seeing good people die for stupid reasons. When I found you, I saw a chance to do something different. Something that mattered. And now, knowing what it's cost you, no regrets, he said firmly. Though I admit the company's better than I expected. She laughed softly. You continue to surprise me, human. Most of my people would consider your mercy a weakness. Yet there is such strength in your compassion, her voice turned husky. It's incredibly attractive. Everything's about attraction with you, isn't it? Life is too short for hesitation, she said simply, especially in war. When we desire something or someone, we act on it. It's one of the many things your people misunderstand about us. And what else do we misunderstand? That we're emotionless, cold. We feel deeply, passionately. We simply express it differently. Her fingers traced patterns on his neck. For instance, saving an enemy's life creates a bond of obligation, one that can only be properly repaid through intimate means. Edward nearly lost his grip on the shaft wall. You're making that up. Am I? He could hear the smile in her voice. I suppose you'll have to survive long enough to find out. The maintenance shaft opened into what appeared to be an abandoned medical bay. its pristine, white surfaces preserved by automated cleaning systems. Edward helped Naira onto one of the diagnostic beds, his suit's sensors confirming the room's air was safe to breathe. "This is quite the find," he said, removing his helmet and examining the advanced medical equipment. "Military-grade cybernetics lab. Must have been for emergency battlefield repairs." Naira watched him with intense interest as he worked. "You know how to use this equipment?" "Combat medic training," he confirmed, activating a diagnostic scanner. "Plus, I've helped install prosthetics before. The neural interface is tricky, but these systems are pretty standardized." "And you would do this for me?" Her voice held a mix of wonder and something deeper. "Despite your people's laws against sharing technology?" Edward met her gaze steadily. "I made a choice when I saved you. No point doing it halfway." She reached out, catching his hand. "My brave, foolish human. Come here." He allowed her to pull him closer, his breath catching at the heat in her ice-blue eyes. Her fingers traced his jawline, sending electricity through his nerve endings. "Before we proceed," she murmured, "there is something you should know about siren physiology. The neural bonding process. It creates a connection, intimate, lasting." "What kind of connection?" "Emotional, physical. When you link the prosthetics to my nervous system, our bioelectric fields will synchronize temporarily." Her lips curved in a seductive smile. "We will feel what the other feels, every sensation, every touch." Edward swallowed hard. "That's intense." "Indeed, many of my people consider it a form of marriage." She pulled him even closer. "Are you prepared for such a bond, Edward Kane?" Instead of answering, he kissed her. The contact was electric, sending waves of pleasure through both of them. When they finally parted, both were breathing heavily. "I'll take that as a yes," Nerra purred. The next few hours were a dance of technical precision and growing anticipation. Edward carefully calibrated the cybernetic limbs, sleek constructs of advanced alloys that would give Naira even greater speed and strength than before. Each neural connection sparked new sensations between them, building an intimacy that transcended physical touch. "Almost done," Edward said, his voice husky with both concentration and desire. "Final calibration sequence." Naira gasped as the prosthetics came fully online, her new legs responding to her thoughts as naturally as her original ones. The neural feedback loop between them intensified, sharing every sensation. "By the stars," she breathed, "I can feel everything you feel. Your desire, your passion, your ... Love," he finished quietly. "Yeah, that too." She pulled him down into another searing kiss, their shared sensations creating a feedback loop of pleasure. What followed was a celebration of life, passion, and the unexpected bond between two souls who should have been enemies. Hours later, they lay tangled together on the medical bed, their connection humming contentedly between them. Nerra traced lazy patterns on Edward's chest while he played with her, now clean, silver-white hair. "My people have a legend," she said softly, "about warriors from beyond the stars who would bring change to our rigid ways. I never thought that it would be a stubborn human who refused to leave you to die." Edward finished with a grin. "Precisely." She propped herself up on one elbow, testing her new legs with obvious pleasure. "Though I must admit, the legend failed to mention how skilled these warriors would be at various activities." "Happy to exceed expectations," he chuckled, then grew serious. "What happens now?" "Now?" She smiled mysteriously. "Now we change everything. This bond between us, it's proof that our peoples aren't meant to be enemies, that something greater is possible. Your people won't see it that way. Neither will mine." "Then we'll make them see." Her eyes gleamed with determination. "Together. After all, I'm carrying rather convincing proof that humans and Siren are more compatible than anyone suspected." Edward froze. Are you sure?" "The medical scanner confirmed it during the neural integration. Apparently, our species are more compatible than either side realized." She touched her abdomen wonderingly. "She will be the first of her kind, a bridge between worlds." "She?" "Siren can sense their offspring's gender immediately after conception. Another fact your intelligence missed." Her smile turned teasing. "Still certain about your choice to save me?" Edward pulled her close, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him. "Best decision I ever made." The facility's alarm system blared to life, shattering their peaceful moment. Edward was on his feet instantly, checking the security feeds while Naira tested her new legs, moving with fluid grace that made his breath catch despite the situation. Multiple contact, he reported. 2 squads, 1 human, 1 siren. They must have detected the power surge from the medical equipment. Perfect timing, Naira said dryly, retrieving a plasma rifle from the medical bay's emergency weapons locker. Her new cybernetic legs hummed softly as she moved. Nothing like family to crash the honeymoon. Through their neural link, Edward felt her determination tinged with worry. Not for herself, but for their unborn daughter. He sent back waves of reassurance, marveling at how natural their connection felt. "The maintenance shaft's still our best bet," he said, checking his own weapons. "If we can reach the surface." "They'll hunt us across the wasteland," Nerra finished. "Number we make our stand here. Show them what we are together." She moved to his side, her enhanced reflexes making her movements almost predatory. The black combat suit, now repaired by medical nanites, highlighted every curve. Even in danger, she managed to make his pulse race. "Beside," she purred, pressing against him, "I rather like the idea of fighting at my mate's side. It's very stimulating." "You're insatiable," he growled, pulling her into a quick, fierce kiss. "Only for you, my brave human." Her ice blue eyes sparkled with mischief and passion. "Now, shall we give our unwanted guests a proper welcome?" They set up their defense quickly, using the medical bay's lights out to their advantage. Edward rigged the entrance with sonic stunners, while Nerra programmed the medical scanners to track life signs. Through their link, they moved in perfect synchronization, anticipating each other's needs. The first squad, human Marines, breached the outer door exactly as Edward predicted. Their point man went down to Naira's precise shot, stunned but alive. "Hold fire," Edward called out. "This is Sergeant Kane, 7th Marines. Stand down." "Kane," a familiar voice responded. "Holy shit, we thought you were dead. Fall back, men. He's one of ours." "Not exactly, Captain," Edward replied, keeping his weapon ready. "Situation's complicated." "Complicated? How? Son of a bitch." The captain caught sight of Naira. "You're harboring a siren." "My mate," Edward corrected firmly, feeling Naira's fierce pride through their bond. "And she's carrying my child." The silence that followed was deafening. Then from the other entrance, a cold voice spoke in the musical serene language. "So the rumors were true," the new voice said. "The noble daughter of House Valthor consorting with a human animal." Naira's response was unprintable in any language, but her meaning was clear. Edward felt her fury through their link, mixed with determination and amusement. "Such language from a warrior princess," the serene commander quaked. "What would your father say?" "He would say I chose well," Naira shot back. "A mate who saw my worth beyond my wounds, who gave me back my legs and his heart in the same breath." The neural link hummed with the intensity of her emotions. Edward sent back his own feelings. Love, pride, absolute certainty that they were meant to find each other. "This is bigger than us now," Edward addressed both groups. "Our child will be proof that our peoples can coexist, that this war is pointless." "Blasphemy!" the siren commander spat. "Stand down, Kane," the human captain warned. "This is treason." "No," Nerra said firmly. "This is evolution, change, the future." She raised her weapon. "And we will defend it." The next few minutes were chaos. Both squads attacked simultaneously, but they weren't prepared for the devastating efficiency of 2 neural-linked warriors. Edward and Naira moved as one, their shared awareness making them nearly unstoppable. Stun blasts filled the air as they disabled their attackers with surgical precision. Nerra's new legs gave her incredible mobility, while Edward's combat experience guided their strategy. Through it all, their bonds sang with shared exhilaration and passion. When it was over, both squads lay unconscious but alive. Edward and Naira stood in the center of the medical bay, breathing hard, their neural link crackling with residual adrenaline and desire. "Well," Naira purred, pressing against him. "That was exciting," Edward finished, pulling her close. Nothing like combat to get the blood flowing." Her hands traced his armor. "Though I can think of better ways to burn off this energy." "We should secure the prisoners first," he said, but his resolve was weakening under her touch. "They'll be unconscious for hours," she murmured, "and I need to properly thank my warrior for defending our family's honor." Their neural link amplified every sensation as they came together, combat high, transforming into passionate celebration of life and love. They were no longer human and siren, but something new, a something wonderful. As their prisoners began regaining consciousness, Edward and Naira faced their first real test as diplomatic revolutionaries. The human captain, James Reynolds, was the first to show signs of acceptance after witnessing their neural-linked combat prowess. "Never seen anything like it," Reynolds admitted, rubbing his stunned muscles. "You two moved like one person in two bodies." "That's exactly what we are now," Naira explained, perched gracefully on a medical bed with her new legs crossed. Through their link, Edward felt her satisfaction at the human's admiring glances at her cybernetic enhancements. The neural bond is permanent, a marriage of minds as well as hearts. The Cyrene commander, Lady Fenra, remained skeptical but intrigued. "Such bonds are sacred among our people. If what you say is true..." "Test it yourself," Edward offered. "Your medical scanners can verify the link." While the Cyrene medics conducted their scans, Edward and Naira shared knowing smiles. Their connection hummed with playful energy, private thoughts and sensations flowing between them. Every brush of skin sent sparks through their shared consciousness. "Extraordinary," Lady Fenra finally declared. "The bond is genuine, and the child will be the first of her kind," Naira finished proudly, "proof that our people's strengths can be combined rather than opposed." Captain Reynolds shook his head in wonder. "A human-serene hybrid. The brass is going to lose their minds." "They already have," Edward pointed out dryly. "That's why we're fighting this war. But look at what we've accomplished here. Technology sharing, biological compatibility, neural synchronization. Everything both sides claimed was impossible." "Because we never tried," Naira added, her hand finding Edward's. Through their link flowed memories of their first intimate moments, the surprising joy of discovering how perfectly they fit together. "We let fear and prejudice blind us to the possibilities." The next few hours were spent in intense discussion. Both squad leaders contacted their superiors, carefully explaining the situation. To everyone's surprise, the response was cautious interest rather than immediate condemnation. "Your timing is fortunate," Lady Fenra explained. "The High Council has been seeking a way to end this conflict without losing face. Your union could provide that opportunity." "Same on our side," Reynolds added. "The Senate's war coffers are running dry. They need a win that doesn't involve more bloodshed." Edward felt Naira's spike of hope through their bond. "Then you'll help us spread the word? Find others who think like we do?" "Better," Lady Fenra smiled, the first genuine smile they'd seen from her. "We'll escort you to the peace talks personally. Both sides need to see what's possible when we stop trying to kill each other." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation and growing support. Word spread through both military networks about the human Marine who saved a serene warrior, their impossible love, and the miracle child they'd created. Their story became a symbol of hope. Through it all, Edward and Nerra's bond deepened. Each night they came together, their neural link transforming simple intimacy into transcendent communion. Their shared pleasure built on itself, minds and bodies moving in perfect harmony. "I never imagined it could be like this," Naira whispered one night, tracing patterns on his chest. "Among my people, joining is a physical act. But this is everything," Edward finished, feeling her love echo through their connection. "Mind, body, soul." She rose above him, silver white hair falling like a curtain around them. "Show me again, my brave human. Show me how your people express their passion." Their lovemaking that night was especially intense, their shared sensations creating an endless feedback loop of pleasure. Through their link, they felt their daughter's consciousness stirring, already aware of the love that created her. When morning came, they faced their future with renewed purpose. Their teams had become converts to their cause, spreading their message through both military hierarchies. More couples were coming forward, humans and Serene who had found love despite the war. "We're changing everything," Naira marveled as they prepared to leave the facility. "All because you refused to leave me to die." Edward pulled her close, their bond singing with shared joy. "Best decision I ever made." "Indeed," she purred, her cybernetic legs wrapping around him with inhuman grace. "Though I believe we have time for one more demonstration of human-serene cooperation before we depart." Their laughter echoed through the medical bay, a sound of pure happiness that transcended species and war. They had found something greater than conflict. They had found hope. The peace conference on Neutral Station Aurora was already tense when Edward and Naira arrived. Human and Cyrene delegations sat on opposite sides of the massive chamber, centuries of distrust evident in their rigid postures. Through their neural link, Edward felt Naira's amusement at the theatrics. "Such ceremony," she whispered, her cybernetic legs making no sound as they walked, "when all they really need is a good—" Her suggestive thought through their bond made Edward stumble slightly. "Behave yourself, warrior princess," he murmured back, though his grin betrayed his own thoughts. "We're supposed to be promoting peace, not starting a diplomatic incident." Their entrance caused an immediate stir. Naira's obvious pregnancy, combined with her graceful cybernetic enhancements, drew all eyes. The black ceremonial combat suit she wore, modified to accommodate her condition, left no doubt about her warrior status. Edward walked beside her in full-dress Marine's uniform, their linked hands a clear statement. "The famous lovers," announced the human chancellor, his tone carefully neutral. "Your story has caused quite a stir." "As it should," the Cyrene high priestess responded. "A human warrior who defied his training to save an enemy, a Cyrene noble who embraced change instead of death. Most irregular." Through their bond, Edward felt Naira's spike of discomfort. Not from the scrutiny, but from something else. He sent back waves of concern. "I'm fine," she whispered. "The little one is just excited." Before Edward could respond, Captain Reynolds stepped forward to present their case. He detailed their neural bond, the medical evidence of successful human-serene hybridization, and the growing movement of other cross-species couples coming forward. "This war is based on lies," Reynolds concluded. "We're not incompatible. We're not natural enemies. We're complementary," Naira interrupted suddenly, her grip on Edward's hand tightening. Through their link came a surge of urgent sensation, like two halves of— "Oh!" Edward felt it through their bond. Their daughter was coming. Now in the middle of the peace talks. "Medical team!" he shouted, supporting Nerra as her legs buckled. "She's in labor!" The next hours were a blur of activity. Both human and Cyrene medical teams worked together, their previous rivalry forgotten in the face of this unprecedented birth. Through it all, Edward stayed connected to Naira through their neural link, sharing her pain and excitement. "She's strong," Naira gasped between contractions. "Like her father." "And beautiful," Edward replied, feeling their daughter's consciousness through their bond. "Like her mother." The birth itself was remarkable for how unremarkable it was. Despite all predictions of complications, their daughter slipped into the world with ease, her first cry echoing in through the conference chamber where the delegations waited. She was perfect, pale green skin like her mother, human facial features like her father. Her hair was a striking mix of silver and brown, and her eyes were something entirely new, shifting between ice blue and deep brown as she looked around. "Impossible," breathed the Cyrene high priestess, who had insisted on witnessing the birth. "She bears the mark of prophecy." The humans looked confused, but Edward felt Naira's shock through their link. "The birthmark," she whispered, "on her shoulder." There, clearly visible on their daughter's left shoulder, was a distinctive pattern, one that appeared in both human and serene ancient texts, prophesying an age of unity. "Well," Edward said dryly, "that's going to complicate the peace talks." Naira laughed, her joy flowing through their bond. "My brave, impossible human, you didn't just save me that day. You set in motion everything the prophecies foretold." The impact was immediate. News of the prophecy child spread through both fleets. The peace talks transformed from cautious negotiations to enthusiastic planning sessions. Other human serene couples emerged from hiding, many already with children of their own. That night, after the formal ceremonies and medical examinations, Edward and Nerra finally had a moment alone with their daughter. "She needs a name," Nerra murmured, watching their child sleep. Through their neural link, Edward felt her contentment, her desire, her endless love for both him and their daughter. "Hope," he suggested, "in both our languages." "Perfect," she purred, pulling him close. "Now, my brave human, I believe we should properly celebrate becoming parents." Their passion that night was tender, yet intense, their neural link amplifying every sensation. They had created something miraculous, not just their daughter, but a future neither of them had imagined possible when they first met on that battlefield. 5 years later, the celebration of Unity Day filled the streets of New Aurora, the first truly integrated human-Serene colony. Edward watched from their balcony as his daughter Hope danced through the crowd, her silver-brown hair shimmering in the twin sun's light. At 5 years old, she was already showing signs of both species' best traits, human adaptability and serene grace. Through their neural link, he felt Naira's approach before her cybernetic legs carried her silently to his side. Even after all these years, the sight of her still took his breath away. The black ceremonial combat suit she wore as ambassador of unity hugged her curves perfectly, a reminder of the warrior princess he'd fallen in love with on that battlefield. "Admiring the view, my brave human?" she purred, pressing against him. Their bond hummed with familiar desire, enhanced by years of shared passion. "Always," he grinned, pulling her close. "Though I'm supposed to be focusing on security for tomorrow's ceremony." "Ah, yes, the great Commander Kane's duties." Her fingers traced the new insignia on his uniform. "Still finding excuses to protect me after all these years?" "You hardly need protection anymore," he pointed out, watching her cybernetic legs shift with liquid grace. "Pretty sure you could take down half the security force without breaking a sweat?" "Only half?" She raised an eyebrow. "I must be getting soft in my diplomatic role." Their playful banter was interrupted by Hope's return, their daughter practically bouncing with excitement. "Mother! Father! Uncle James is here! Captain! Now Admiral!" Reynolds appeared behind her, grinning. "Hope insisted on escorting me up personally. She's getting faster every day." "Like mother, like daughter," Edward said proudly. Through their link, he felt Nerra's surge of love for their child. Hope's unique heritage had made her a symbol of the new era. Her ability to switch between human and Cyrene characteristics at will had revolutionized understanding of both species' genetics. More importantly, she had her father's compassion and her mother's fierce spirit, perfect traits for the future leader of their integrated society. "The other children are gathering for the Unity Dance," Reynolds said. "Would you like to join them, Hope?" "Can I, Mother?" Hope's eyes shifted to ice blue, her Cyrene mode, as Edward called it. "Of course, little warrior." Nerra kissed her daughter's forehead. Show them how the prophecy child moves." As Hope dashed off with Reynolds, Edward felt Naira's desire through their bond. "You're thinking inappropriate thoughts for a diplomatic function," he teased. "I'm thinking about our first Unity Day," she countered, her hand sliding under his uniform jacket. "How we celebrated in private after the ceremonies." "Naira," he warned, though their neural link betrayed his own rising passion. "The ceremonies aren't until tomorrow," she whispered in his ear, "and Hope is occupied with the festivities." Her cybernetic legs wrapped around him with inhuman flexibility. Their lovemaking that night was as passionate as ever, their neural bond transforming every touch into shared ecstasy. Years of intimacy had only deepened their connection, each encounter a reminder of the miracle that brought them together. Later, watching the celebration fireworks from their bed, Naira traced the scars on his chest. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked softly. "Saving the enemy that day?" Edward caught her hand, sending waves of love through their bond. "Best decision I ever made, though I'm pretty sure you're the one who saved me." "We saved each other," she corrected, pulling him into another kiss, "and created something beautiful in the process." Hope's laughter drifted up from the streets below, where she led other hybrid children in traditional dances from both cultures. The sight of human and Cyrene parents watching together, many sharing neural bonds of their own, was testament to how far they'd come. "We did good, didn't we?" Edward mused, feeling Naira's contentment through their link. "We did amazing," she purred, straddling him with predatory grace. "Now, my brave human, shall we practice making another miracle?" Their passion ignited anew, a celebration of life and love that transcended species. Through their neural bond, they felt Hope's joy in the festivities below, their daughter's existence a constant reminder that sometimes the greatest acts of courage were acts of love. As the twin suns rose on another day in their shared paradise, Edward held his warrior princess close, marveling at how a single choice on a battlefield had changed the universe. Their love had healed more than Naira's wounds. It had healed generations of hatred, creating a future neither of them could have imagined. And it all started because a stubborn human marine refused to leave a wounded Cyrene warrior to die,